Faces of Sustainability, where we talk to the sustainability professionals behind the 5 sustainability coalitions of action at the Consumer Goods Forum, who are working to make the world a better place for everyone. Today, I am so pleased to be speaking with Anbinh Phan, who is the Director of Global Government Affairs and Business Diplomacy at Walmart. And my name is Madelaine VanDerHeyden from the Consumer Goods Forum. Anbinh, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Madelaine, thanks for taking the time.
Of course. So Anbinh, why don't we just get started with an easy question? Can you tell me about your career path so far and how you got involved in working in sustainability?
Sure. My career path, Madelaine, began when I finished graduate school and worked in international trade. I've always been interested in economic development, given that my family is Vietnamese refugees. I was interested in issues of inequality and poverty. And through the process of trade, I learned a lot about globalization and issues affecting our economy. It was actually later I went back to law school, and that's when I learned more about labor trafficking. I worked with an organization called Boat People SOS, and I traveled to Southeast Asia. And that's where I met a Vietnamese strike leader who was seeking asylum as she was in a perilous situation in Jordan and working in an apparel factory for extra long hours and not having rights. And so her story really impacted me. And just realizing that labor trafficking was not a bug in the system, but was endemic to the system really was surprising to me, especially as when I was looking at international trade, I mainly saw the benefits, but had not realized that there were negative at the rate of negative externalities as well. And so when this job opened up at Walmart, I was really excited to work on both the trade angle, but also have an opportunity to advance the responsible recruitment of migrant workers.
That's a really fantastic journey you've been on. Thank you for sharing. And you talked a little bit about how you got there and some of the inspirational experiences you had that brought you to this position here at Walmart. But now that you've been, you're in this director role, you're working with the largest retailer in the world. What keeps you inspired in your work as you're continuing to tackle some of these large issues like labor trafficking?
The things that really inspire me are the people. They continue to be the people. I remember that I went to an event where we were asked to close our eyes and to think of the most vulnerable person that we had encountered. And for me, it was actually a Burmese fisher that was doing port in, port out in Thailand. And that really impacted me. It was also walking through the dorms in the Mexican tomato fields and seeing the living conditions there. So it's always really about the people and thinking through, giving you the strength to continue on when the problems are complex and the challenges are high. Also, I'm really encouraged by my network and community. I really value the CGF coalition. We're also part of other coalitions, work with other business and civil society actors, government actors, just colleagues and peers who are working so hard, who have been working on these issues for over 20 years themselves. So I think I look to these colleagues, I admire them a lot. I'm inspired by their commitment and their ingenuity and their creativity, thinking through issues like technology and law enforcement. So my colleagues inspire me a lot.
So I think it's interesting you've mentioned two parts of my next question. So the coalition that you're referring to is our Human Rights Coalition working to end forced labor, and that's one of the most people-focused coalitions we have at the CGF. And it's really tackling one of the most salient human rights abuses in the consumer goods industry, which is forced labor. And of course, that has such a real and important impact on people's lives. And as you mentioned, that's just one of the driving forces that keeps you working in this role. And so as a key member of the Human Rights Coalition working to end forced labor, You've kind of touched on it a bit, speaking about some of the people that you've met around the world, but why is this work on forced labor and responsible recruitment and, making the supply chain and labor market more sustainable? Why is that work so important to you?
These are challenging issues that are endemic. There have been systems built around them. There are many people who gain from the systems. There is corruption. And so it's encouraging to work together. Through the coalition, you can go farther together. And the coalition is really looking to address issues like looking at the labor recruitment system. And so I think the specificity of looking at particular challenges, going deeper and getting the lessons learned is really critical and important. And also partnering with stakeholders like the International Organization for Migration or the Fair Labor Association is super helpful. These experts have a lot of insights on what we can do. And these issues at times may seem insurmountable, but there can be tipping points. There can be potential unlocks. There's a lot of hard work, but this is work that we're doing together and learning together. And I hope that we can continue to accelerate this work to really enhance and grow it in the future. So working in the coalition is a great opportunity to learn and also take new concepts and scale them.
And this experience working in the coalition, you've mentioned some of the different members of this community who are other leaders in other consumer goods manufacturers and retail companies. There are stakeholders and organizations like IOM, like FLA, and then there are other actors that you are involved with, governments and other members of civil society and other companies in the supply chain. Looking at all of that, why do you think that inclusive leadership is crucial to tackling these human rights and sustainability challenges, and something that is related to, some of the experiences that you've had?
Yeah, thanks, Madeleine. For me, I think there is the answer that everyone will give and makes a lot of sense, that inclusion and diversity brings different knowledge, ideas to the table. Make sure that we're not missing anything. So I think that's sort of the reason and rationale at the very basic level. But on an even deeper level, we have to really understand, like, how can we even have survivor inclusion for issues of forced labor? I've been learning a lot about that and what it means, and how sometimes when we're seeking to solve problems, we bring the same power dynamics back into the way, the way we operate. So we don't want to, as we seek to empower people, don't want to disempower others in the process, for instance, survivors. So how do we raise up those voices? How do we empower people? How do we allow them to contribute all their insights and knowledge? And in that way, add to the first concept, which is make sure we're not missing anything, bringing knowledge and information to the table that really will help us solve these seemingly intractable problems. And then finally, a concept that I just have been percolating in my mind is sometimes the work is the mission itself, meaning there is the mission, which is to combat forced labor, to advance responsible recruitment. But as human beings working together on these issues, the work itself, the teamwork, the way we treat one another, the way we include people who have different capabilities, backgrounds, genders, insights, experiences, that in itself is the work as well. So diversity, equity, inclusion is so important, can empower people, bring healing and bring hope even to our work as we seek to bring this to the larger world through the work we are doing to combat forced labor and advance responsible recruitment through the coalition and through other forums.
Anbin, I love what you have to say about this more process orientation versus the product. Of course, the mission is our goal, but it's the way we operate and how we do things that is so important. And I think that's one of the biggest values we have at the CGF is how we get together and how we bring peers and even competitors in the consumer goods industry to work towards these missions and these goals in a really productive, constructive, and diverse and equitable and overall sustainable manner. So everything you just said, I think, is a really great summary of what we're trying to do, especially within the CGF coalitions of action, such as the HRC. Well,
Great.
Anbin, sorry.
Great.
Well,
I agree 100%.
yes. This has been such a short conversation. I wish we could talk longer, Anbin, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me for this little brief snapshot of one of the phases of sustainability we have at the CGF. It's been a real pleasure learning a bit more about you, and I'm sure the other members of the CGF will feel the same way.
Thanks so much. I enjoy the conversation and really appreciate the colleagues that I work with and the passion and commitment that they bring. So I'm glad to be part of this community.